My name is Bonnie Brady. I am the Executive Director of the Long Island Commercial Fishing Association, which represents all gear types of commercial fishermen on Long Island in New York. In 2003, we became involved with offshore wind when 100 offshore turbines were slated for our state waters. That project was killed when the real cost of the project to ratepayers was revealed in 2006. I am here to join the chorus of warnings about offshore wind. No matter what you have been told for Canada to be the new Saudi Arabia of wind, there are far more threats from offshore wind lurking ahead to commercial fishing and its coastal communities, your domestic seafood production and infrastructure, mariner safety, national security, and the ocean itself. I implore you to not move rapidly without being aware of the pitfalls. To begin, you must protect commercial fishing, fisheries, and benthic habitat by removing fishing grounds from offshore wind lease areas, including where cables are placed. Without having specific language within your fisheries law, and perhaps also in C-49, you may be unwittingly signing an economic death warrant for fishing communities, and possibly the ocean's productivity itself. The Bureau of Energy Management has had minimal to no contact with commercial fishing experts in the siting process here in the U.S., only including them after project design is locked in via state purchase power agreements. Best management practices is a mirage. Consolidation of federal decision-making power under BOEM means that other agencies have been ignored, considering fisheries at the last stages of its federal review. By then, alternatives are severely limited by developer state decisions, even though the lease is in federal waters. And our NOAA Fisheries, which is our main regulator, like your DFO, is not a lead agency, and as such, they cannot say no to a project. BOEM has full authority. Federal agencies are instead deferring to multinational or foreign government-owned energy companies, advertising the permanent installation of turbines as solely a good thing for our oceans, prioritizing build-out goals at the expense of our nation's wild-caught seafood security. By losing access to fishing grounds for multiple fisheries and direct access to ports throughout our coastlines, our entire commercial fishing industry and its infrastructure will be gutted. Of late, we've seen procurement agreements canceled, but with new mandates and rebidding right around the corner, development is all but guaranteed, shutting out our ways to protect our industry and the environment. As Ms. Lapp mentioned, our only recourse is to sue. The U.S. has no language to protect or compensate commercial fishermen for the taking of their fishing grounds for offshore wind, unlike Denmark, whose law states that, quote, no obstacles may be placed in the way of lawfully practiced fishing, end quote. They will tell you compensation was only because in Denmark they closed wind lease areas to fishing, and here you won't be prevented. What they would tell you is it's dangerous to enter wind farms because marine radar will not work. Fishermen from Thanet, England told us the same in 2014. Their 10-meter boats are now forced to travel around the Ørsted-built offshore wind farm to cod grounds, much farther from port because the cod are no longer in the lease area. In 2016, we began telling U.S. regulators about false ghost targets on radar, using the example of the Block Island Wind Farm, a small 5-turbine, 6-megawatt site off of Rhode Island. We were ignored. In the spring of 22, the National Academy of Sciences corroborated fishermen's longstanding radar interference concerns. As Ms. Lapp had mentioned earlier testimony, Rhode Island lost the fishing vessel Mistress and 2 of its 3 crew on the early hours of New Year's Day in 2019. The Coast Guard report described clearly the Sikorsky Jayhawk helicopter sent to look for survivors returned to base after arriving offshore as they were, quote, unable to conduct search due to high winds, low visibility, hazards, in parentheses, windmills, and low ceiling, end quote. For 5 turbines far smaller than the more than 3,000 plus U.S. offshore wind turbine planned assault on the Atlantic Ocean. In 2020, the Offshore Wind Turbine Radar Mitigation Workshop webinars made it clear a 1-foot error in ocean current height based on high-frequency radar will become a 24-kilometer error in the search zone for a lost soul. The entire search and rescue operation, SAROPS model used to predict search zones will be rendered useless. Another reason Thanet fishermen must travel farther is because their former fishing grounds, now the Thanet Wind Farm, are churning up constant underwater sediment plumes up to 6 kilometers long and over 150 meters wide, 24/7 with scour pits up to 40 meters deep behind each turbine. Those sediment plumes can be seen from space. I'm not kidding. NASA did a paper on it in 2014. We do know through European research that offshore wind farms warms the sea surface temperature, mimicking climate change, affects ocean circulation patterns, produces substantial loss of wind for up to 60 miles past the lease area, and impacts upwelling and downwelling, which feeds the ocean and all of its denizens. Please do not rush. Please do not rush forward as the U.S. has. You do and risk it all. I look forward to any questions the committee may have.